600 people. It was actually at FIT, so a big shout out, thank you to FIT for hosting us.
Yes.
And we actually got to eat lunch at their dining hall, so if you have a student thinking about, college at a STEM university and food's important, I highly recommend the FIT dining hall.
So
But,
much
no,
stuff.
it was really, really great. A lot of work went into that, to put that on, and so I want to thank all the district office staff that put that on, but then thank all the school-based teams for coming and really giving so much of those 2 days. There was a lot of work done, really, everybody was attentive, energetic, engaged, and I hope it's a good way to kick off the summer for them. I do hope, though, that they get some time to relax.
Yes.
And rejuvenate before we come back in August. That's it, thank you.
All right, thank you. That brings us to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On this morning's agenda, we have 19 consent items, 4 action items, and 2 information items. Changes made to the agenda since released to the public include the following. Provisions I-36, the K-12 Comprehensive Evidence-Based Reading Plan for 24-25. H-33, a memorandum of understanding with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office for the sheriff-trained on-site Marshall program for fiscal year 25. Items removed were I-35, Procurement Information Report, April 24, and F-15, Job Description, School Social Worker.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Paul, roll call, please.
Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Ms. Campbell?
Aye.
Ms. Wright?
Aye.
Mr. Trent?
Aye.
Mr. Susan?
Aye.
All right, we are now at the administrative staff recommendations. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Any discussion? No? Paul, roll call, please.
Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Ms. Campbell?
Aye.
Ms. Wright?
Aye.
Mr. Trent?
Aye.
Mr. Susan?
Aye.
Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board. We have a lot of people to congratulate and celebrate today. A lot of people taking on greater responsibility and leadership positions, so we're going to bring them each up and give them a chance to say a few words. So first, I want to congratulate Larry Wayne Lawrence Jr. for his promotion to Assistant Principal 12 months at Cocoa High School. Wayne, congratulations. Come on up.
First and foremost, thank you to Superintendent Dr. Mark Rendell and the Brevard Public School Board. Today, here with me is my lovely mother, Dolores Lawrence, and my sister, Sharon Lawrence. I want to begin with this ideology: strong leaders cultivate other leaders. With that acknowledgement, I recognize several influential people who assisted in my leadership growth. Brevard Public School Board, Cocoa High School's principal, Denise Stewart, is why I'm standing before you today to accept the 12-month position of assistant principal. Ms. Stewart believed in me from day one, consistently challenged me, and committed to my growth as an educational leader. And with all sincerity, I'd like to thank Ms. Stewart. Next, I'd like to express my deep appreciation to BPS Director of Operations, Mr. Rashad Wilson. Mr. Wilson's consistent support, which embodies the phrase, "action speaks louder than words," has been instrumental in my career growth. His guidance and assistance have been invaluable. I am genuinely grateful for his contributions. Lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Secondary Schools Director, Ms. Lena Weibelt, and Chief of Schools, Mr. James Reamer. In conclusion, I want to reiterate my unwavering commitment to our school leader, our esteemed faculty, our exceptional students, their supportive families, and the vibrant Cocoa community. I'm here to serve with perseverance, respect, integrity, discipline, and empathy. I am honored to be entrusted with this role. To God be the glory.
All right, so next we'd like to congratulate Kiara Lang on her promotion to Assistant Principal 12-month at Stone Magnet.
Good morning. Thank you. I do want to thank God, of course, for protecting me
just keeping me safe, keeping me grounded. I'd like to thank you, Dr. Rendell, school board members, Mr. Raymer, just for believing in my leadership, supporting me. I, of course, have to thank the Hawk Nation, Principal Legate, and the leadership team at Vieira High School for embracing me, supporting me, encouraging me, and also riding the wave of positivity with me. I, of course, back at home have to thank my family and close friends, those near and far, my newfound friends. I want to thank every single scholar that, of course, touches my heart. Some of them are watching right now going, oh, we're going to miss you, but I know you're going to do great things. And I appreciate that because I really am truly in this position because somebody took my hand and said, I believe in you and I see different for you, and I just want to continue that legacy. And last but not least, to Principal Ferranti Williams, I want to say thank you for having me. Thank you for acknowledging that you are my mentor and agreeing to support me. And to the Stone Magnet Middle School family, I'm a little nervous. Let's go Gophers.
So next, we want to congratulate Pamela Dodd on her promotion to position of assistant principal at Cape View Elementary School. Congratulations.
Thank you. So that's hard to follow. So I want to say thank you, Dr. Rendell, to the board, and also to Principal Long in believing in my leadership abilities. And I continue to look forward to do great things at Cape View Elementary. I've served that school for the past 11 years, and it is definitely my little gem in the sand. I can't wait to take it from good to great. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Pam. All right, next we want to congratulate Whitney Tolliver on her promotion to assistant principal at McNair Magnet Middle School. Congratulations.
I'm actually an Imperial.
Yeah, I was going to say, that didn't look right.
No middle school for me. Good morning. I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to serve the students and families of Imperial. I want to thank you guys on the board and Dr. Rendell. I want to thank my husband and my parents for supporting me through my educational journey. I really want to thank my Imperial family. They supported me and opened me with welcome arms 3 years ago as a literacy coach, and they are supporting me now in this move to AP, and I truly have found my home with them. And they are the most wonderful staff and wonderful students in Brevard County. Imperial's the best. Sorry.
So now we're going to get to McNair.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So congratulations to John Chase for being promoted to a position of assistant principal at McNair Magnet Middle School. Congratulations, John.
I'd just like to thank the board and the administration over at Brevard County, but especially Dr. Richardson for giving me this opportunity and the mentorship that I needed, and thank my wife and daughter, both teachers at O'Galley, just for putting up with me. Thank you all.
Last, we'd like to congratulate Christine Snow on her promotion to position of assistant principal at Tropical Elementary School. Congratulations.
Okay. I would like to thank the board, Dr. Rendell, for this opportunity. Personally, this last year has been the hardest of my life, so I wasn't really sure if I would be standing here today as an AP, but I'm super excited to take on the responsibility of AP at Tropical Elementary School. I get to go back home, where I actually taught for a year. My daughter attended Tropical Elementary from 2nd to 6th grade, so going back as a trailblazer is an honor. I want to thank some of the people that have supported me throughout my career. Pam Dodd, we get to my very first principal, and now we get to stand here together today and be assistant principals together, so that's super exciting. Miss Hudson, Tara Harris, Dr. Mella, Miss Murphy, Miss Nelson, and Miss Guilford, and yes, you can put names in speeches, just so you know. Dr. Marshall for this opportunity to be the new assistant principal at Tropical, and anyone else that has ever supported me, thank you so much, and I appreciate and look forward to this opportunity. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a short recess and grab a photo if that's okay. So everyone that's been promoted, if they'll mind coming forward, we're going to take a short recess and we'll take a photo and convene in 5 minutes. All right, welcome back. We are now at the public comments portion of the meeting. We have 6 speakers for today's meeting. Each will receive 3 minutes. Mr. Gibbs will be calling up each one of the speakers, and I'm going to take this opportunity to remind the public of the rules written out in Board Policy 0169.1. All comments should be directed at the board or individual board members. Staff members or other individuals shall not be addressed by name. Abusive, obscene, or irrelevant comments will not be permitted. Orderly conduct is expected from all public comment participants, and the presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate the participants' public comment opportunity. Again, relevance has to do with the things that we are able to control within our role as a board member. Mr. Gibbs, will you please call up the first 3 speakers?
Marcus Hockman, Bernard Bryan, Anthony Colucci.
All right. I'm good, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Words are so powerful. In fact, words can kill more people than bullets can. Words kill people's self-esteem. They kill people's sense of confidence. They kill people's sense of creativity in the classroom. They kill people's ability to raise their hand to answer a question. When I speak of these words, I'm referring to benchmark clarification of the social studies standards, which is how slaves develop skills which in some instances can be applied for their personal benefit. Now, I have a few questions to ask concerning this benchmark clarification from our school district. Has there been curriculum to teach this benchmark clarification yet? If so, have teachers, parents, and the community review this select curriculum? Will the curriculum department create help videos on how to teach our parents on how to teach this standard to their kids? By a show of hands, how many of you, including board members and the superintendent, would want to come in the classroom or go into the classroom and teach this benchmark clarification? By a show of hands, how many of you, including board members and superintendent, would want to create a video on how to teach this benchmark clarification? Now, if you stated no or did not raise your hand for questions 3 through 5, then how can we ask our teachers to teach this benchmark? Now, to this board and superintendent, have you advocated to FSBA about this, the Superintendent Association, legislatures, and the governor to abolish this standard? If not, why not? And please remember, to all the Republicans in this room and on this board, are you not a part of Lincoln's party? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman.
Bernard Bryan, Anthony Colucci, and Amber Yance.
Good morning, Board. Thank you for allowing me to speak again this morning. I think this is probably my 200, maybe my 50th speech. But I just want to say thank you, Dr. Rendell and Board, for allowing me to speak. I met a director from FIT the other day, and he said, Mr. Bryant, thank you for what you're doing in the community, but one thing I want you to make sure that happens. He said, make sure our kids can read and make sure they can do math. So I just want to make this plea to the board that this is still our focus, that make sure every child in Brevard Public School will be at reading as well as math level. I would also like to take this time to thank Dr. Rendell and his staff for implementing the 7 Mighty MOUs. This is a phenomenal program. I've had educators to really examine it, and they are so positive about this program. But I want to encourage the board to make sure that Dr. Rendell has all the resources and everything he needs to execute this program. This is very critical for our children. So thank you for this program. I also like to let the board know that we're looking forward, though, to how you're going to increase our marginalized community participation in the VPK program. We know, when you look at the value stream, early learning is critical. So please be aggressive in that area. Make sure your plan is very aggressive, because when you look at the participation rate of marginalized kids, they are not enrolled in VPK, so please stay focused with that. Also, I want to share with this board, we did had a community meeting with educators. And one of the things that they share with us, how important classroom management is in helping control the classrooms. So if you remember my fishbone diagram, one of the things that I added was, looking at the teacher's support as well. So I'm asking this team to do everything you can to make sure that teachers are trained in the classroom management skills. This is part of the areas when you look at fishbone analysis, so please consider that. And I also like to challenge this board. There are 38 D schools and C schools in Brevard Public Schools. So if you can, please do everything you can to make sure that the C school progress to a B school and the D school progress to a B school. So if you can make that as part of your plan and share your plans with the community so that every child can have the best opportunity to learn. So thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you.
Anthony Colucci, Amber Yance, Kelly Kervin.
My name is Anthony Colucci. I'm the president of the Brevard Federation of Teachers. On March 20th, the SIAC committee was presented with info saying a $4.3 million board infusion would be necessary to meet our 60-day runout. Yesterday, that amount was reduced to $533,000. That was a decrease of $3.8 million in 3 months. That's not a rounding error. Our consultant is projecting a shortfall of $6.3 million by December 31st, 2024. Why should we accept this projection when we watched it fall so much in 3 months? And I'm not denying there may be a need for an increase in premiums, but let's aim for the right target. As leaders, you know how important it is for you to have as much information as possible when you're making a decision. Yesterday at SIAC, we were asked to make important decisions without all the information available. For instance, we were asked to consider an increase in copays for primary doctor's visits. But with the info we had, we weren't able to figure out how much money that would actually save the plan. We were asked to consider a new network of doctors without knowing what doctors would be in that network. You can't make huge decisions like this without all the info. I'm asking the board to consider what is a realistic increase. Is it really the 13% that our consultant is projecting, or is this the annual, the sky is falling projection? Massive increases to our plan will greatly impact our employees' raises, their bottom lines, and of course our district finances. Let's be cautious and have all the information when making these decisions rather than making a hasty one. Thank you.
Thank you,
Amber
Anthony.
Yance, Kelly Kervin, Sandra Sullivan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amber Yance, and I will be speaking in regards to expanding the Guardian program. I'm a parent to 5 BPS students, and the safety of my children as well as the safety of all children in our communities is my #1 priority. My question to all of you is, have you done your research? Do you have the data to prove that this is a good decision? I would hate to assume that our students are going to be the test dummies for this project. And as a realtor, I know that we don't just take estimates off of Zillow. We don't get our data from Zillow. We actually do the research to find out what an accurate price is for selling or buying a house. So I would hope that you all are doing the accurate research that's required and being transparent with our parents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly Kervin, Sandra Sullivan.
Good morning, everyone. When I first started coming to these meetings, reading was my biggest motivator. So I did want to say thank you for the expansion of the science of reading in K-3. I know it's a state mandate, so didn't exactly have a choice, but our students who are entering school and currently in the younger grades are going to largely benefit. But I'm going to challenge this board that you're leaving grades 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 behind. My younger daughter has experienced 1 year of intensive reading after she failed her ELA FSA on purpose and I decided to let her live with her life choices. And I can tell you that that is not enough. And she was a student that didn't even need it. Science of reading should be K-12. Like, they don't age out of it. On to my actual comment. At the last work session, Megan Wright brought up a question about surveying parents district-wide about year-round school. I'm going to echo Jennifer's question and ask why now. Changing up a school or even a feeder band of schools is a large undertaking with a lot of moving pieces. Changing up the entire district is a monumental undertaking that isn't a year or two away. It's more like a 5 to 7 year plan if you're being responsible. These changes don't just affect our families and those who work for BPS, but every single public and private organization and employer in the county and even some neighboring counties. Now, I could point out that there's virtually no evidence-based research that justifies this cataclysmic change. In fact, studies show year-round school only slightly improves learning for economically disadvantaged students and shows no significant changes in learning for average students. Which really means we could see the same results if we invested our money into summer programs centralized in areas of economic need, and we wouldn't need to waste millions of dollars reinventing the wheel. But that isn't my point. When I ask why now, I kind of already know the answer. You're targeting BPS families to manipulate data at a time when school is just let out. Parents have restocked their snack cabinets 20 times, and hearing "I'm bored" or "bruh" on repeat is driving us bonkers. So even though there is no evidence to back up the decision to destabilize BPS in all of Brevard County, this year-round schooling thing doesn't actually sound so bad. You'll then use these skewed statistics to justify your irresponsible push to destabilize an already shaky school district because the governor wants it. And to be clear, I don't necessarily think anybody on this board is smart enough to come up with this, but I do think the people who control your puppet strings at the state level, where a governor has spoken about year-round schooling ad nauseum, are smart enough to come up with this plan. And for me, it's not even about year-round schooling, which I'm personally indifferent to. It's about how it's going about it. It's slimy, dishonesty, and lacks the transparency most of you promised when you were elected.
Sandra Sullivan.
Good morning, Sandra Sullivan. I came here last meeting with a request regarding concerns of cancers among our students beachside. And first, I would like to thank Matt Susan for coming to the recent Restoration Advisory Board for Patrick and listening to the concerns and listening to us talk about this a bit more. A vote was taken and passed as an advisory board to request Patrick to test the retention area on the north part of Satellite High School. And my request today is per a document that was attached that I've sent to you previously for this school board to request the testing of the athletic fields from Patrick Space Force Base. RAB is responsible for contamination coming off base. It is broadly known in Brevard by our officials that it is coming from the base. A recent UF study said the chemical constituents are AFFF, and this needs to be tested. I mentioned another student with cancer, lung cancer, testicle cancer at 21 years old. There's been way too many cases of kids with cancers, and we care about that. So if you could send a letter, the school board requesting Patrick to test, they are responsible for contamination coming off base. That's a request. My second request today is pertaining to Senate Bill 102. This is a fiscal issue for the school board because this is going to take away funding if you don't opt out. This is going to 75% of property taxes for these properties will not come to school board and will impact your budget. It is, I call this the you will own nothing and be happy law. It incentivizes corporations to own rental housing, and I believe it is a cornerstone of our Constitution, our founding fathers, and they intended that to encourage property ownership. It's very simple. The tax exemptions for the developers will mean tax increases for we the people, many of which are struggling to hold on to their homes with the increases in insurance and so on. So as fiscal conservatives, my request to you today in light of your own budget is to do what the county did, what Brevard County did, and opt out of these tax exemptions, which is now allowable on the new bill when DeSantis came to Brevard County a few weeks ago and signed into law HB 7073, which gives the school board, and the Brevard County has already done it. So I'm hoping the school board will follow what the Brevard County has done and opt out of this horrible bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Whoa, too many buttons to hit up here. All right. That concludes our public comments. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to address the board with the concerns and suggestions. All right. We are now at the consent agenda. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are 19 agenda items under this category.
Thank you, Dr. Rendell. Does any board member wish to pull any of the items? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda on today's agenda.
Move to approve.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none. Paul, roll call, please.
Ms. Jenkins,
Aye.
Ms. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Wright,
Aye.
Mr. Trent, Mr. Susan.
Aye.
All right, Dr. Rendell, will you please let us know about the items under the action portion of today's meeting?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first action item is H30, Independent Citizens Committee for Millage Oversight, new members.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Any discussion?
Just by way of gratitude, just want to thank the members who already serve on this committee and our ICOC for our sales star tax and these new people who have applied. It is, you don't get any benefit from this committee. It's not necessarily politically moving you forward. It's just citizens' willingness to serve and act as extra eyes for our community. And I just appreciate the people who spend the time on this committee, who volunteer very much for opening themselves up to this time commitment, and as well as the, just putting yourself out there publicly. So thank you.
I echo those sentiments, Ms. Campbell. Any other discussion? None? All right, Paul, roll call, please.
Ms. Jenkins,
Aye.
Ms. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Wright,
Aye.
Mr. Trent, Mr. Susan.
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Rendell, will you please let us know about the next item under action?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next action item is H31, Procurement Solicitations.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Paul, roll call, please.
Ms. Jenkins,
Aye.
Ms. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Wright,
Aye.
Mr. Trent, Mr. Susan.
Aye.
Thank you. Dr. Rendell, will you please let us know about the next action item under today's agenda?
The next action item is H32, Department/School Initiated Agreements.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Paul, roll call, please.
Ms. Jenkins,
Aye.
Ms. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Wright,
Aye.
Mr. Trent, Mr. Susan.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rendell. Will you please let us know about the last item under today's action portion of today's agenda?
Yes, the last action item is H33, Memorandum of Understanding with Brevard County Sheriff's Office for the Sheriff-Trained On-Site Marshall Program for fiscal year '25.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Any discussion?
Yeah, probably back up some discussion.
All right, Ms. Campbell.
Yeah. I just want to, because we had a couple of people, actually just one, mentioned it in public comments, but it's certainly gone around the public a little bit this time. I want to speak on one particular item, and that is idea of have we done the research? Is there data? Is this something where, I think the word test dummies was used. I have to say, I understand when people, we live in our own county, we look at our own county, we think about what's going on. It's not often done that people look outside of our county and see what's going on. And I have to say that the tone of this decision this time around here in 2024 is so much different from the tone that I remember in 2018 from the community. And I think a lot of that has been, we're 6 years past, we have had more school shootings. That's one thing I think people see the need more, but also some of the fears that were really people drove down into back 6 years ago of, well, for example, if you guys weren't serving in your positions now, you were a teacher at the time, but there were people who the idea of having an SRO in every school was, they very much objected to it because they didn't want that armed presence on campus. And at the time, we only had SROs in high schools and most of our middle schools, if not all, but none in elementaries at all. And so that idea of adding an SRO to an elementary school was just, oh my goodness, that's going to be so terrible. We're going to have, and it's just not that way. And then we added, then the board at the time, this was right before I got in, came up with a security specialist position, and again, more armed people on campuses because some of our schools needed that, and some of our schools ended up having 2 or more. And just this idea of, I know this is a different decision that we're making as far as expanding it to be more of an undercover and unknown position, but the training is the same. The excellent training, more than what the state requires, that 176, 177 hours. Thorough training, which includes psychological testing. It includes the shoot, don't shoot, and 16 hours every year having to re-up it. It includes even some, sometimes this word gets a bad rep, DEI training, right? To make sure that, that there's none of that bias comes into it. So when it's about keeping students safe, and what we have over the last 6 years is the fears that were projected. Well, if you do this, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and those things just haven't happened. And in addition to that, we have other counties, and I know this is a repeat of something we talked about before. We haven't talked about in the board meeting so much, at least since October. We have these other counties across our state and across the nation, because we have school districts in Texas and other states that have adopted this program years past now and have that data of all the things that were foretold just haven't happened. And when I read every email that's come through, and we haven't actually gotten a lot on this issue since October when the discussion started, but some of the ones that have sent me are old articles back from 2018, or people who are not in this position, who haven't been trained in how to secure your weapon in going to the bathroom or in a fight, all of which are important, are part of the training. So I do have faith in our sheriff's department because they have proven over the last 6 years that they do a good job with this training. Our security specialists certainly have been a great benefit and are around our students. If people think, and sorry for taking the time, but this is an important issue. If people are worried about, I completely understand and have compassion for people who don't want their students around guns, but the truth is they already are. They already are. Not only are they, if you go to church and their security team, or if you go to Walmart, people are carrying, but in our schools they are. And I don't think that I have not ever witnessed and not been ever aware of, or anybody made me aware of, a situation where an SRO or a security specialist feels like they have to be cautious around students, that they need to keep a certain perimeter or back away because they might frighten or endanger a student at the school. In fact, I just have to tell you this one story to digress a little bit. One of our security specialists at one of the elementary schools down in the South area is their food pantry coordinator. And so not only is he working closely with families, with students, he's working closely with the families, and he has taken on himself, he wants to build that relationships with the families. These are the kind of people who are coming in, and that picture of a raging gun maniac that some people paint, not in this meeting, but it's out there. That's just not true. And this board has made a commitment to making sure that the sheriff's process is followed, and that all of these people who are candidates, they have to meet certain qualifications. And if that means we only end up with a handful, which you won't know because that's secure, confidential information, if we only have a handful, they will be a really good handful. Just like these security specialists have been such a benefit to our district over the last 6 years. So, I just have to go back to the quote that Sheriff Gualtieri shared with us in October when we went to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. The question was asked by a board member somewhere else in the state, how many armed people on a campus is enough? And he said, well, I can't give you that answer because every campus is different sizes, different number of students, different number of entrances, different number of places to hide. Every school environment is different. But he said, I can tell you this: 2 is better than 1, 3 is better than 2, 4 is better than 3. So it really, those kinds of things make you think. And I think, it's not something that I'm real excited about doing. Honestly, I'm not excited about voting yes today because I don't like that we're in the world today where we need this. But one of the other things that's thrown up is, well, invest more in mental health, invest more in security and metal detectors and all those things. Those are the things we agree on. I've never run into someone who doesn't think we need to invest more in the mental health of our students and identifying those and getting them the help that they need. This board has already made a commitment, along with the superintendent, to take a look at the metal detectors, and we've had that workshop, and that is something we're doing too. It's not you need to do this or this, but all the layers of protection so that our students and our staff are safe. And, I encourage people, if they still have confusion about how this is going to go down, as much as we can share, reach out to me, because I'll share with you what I can, but there are some things we can't share. I can't tell you who they are, where they are, how many we have. Those are things that will always remain confidential, because that's, to protect that information from bad actors. So, but we don't want people to be confused about this. We want to be as clear as possible. And so I encourage people to reach out and ask those questions. You can ask me or the superintendent or any of the board members if you've got further question about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Any other discussion?
I have one.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Jenkins. The floor is yours.
So I have a couple of things, but first and foremost, my biggest issue is continuously the lack of transparency. And I'm just going to take it to as soon as possible. I'm not even going to go backwards. This item was pulled yesterday, and people in the media and people inquiring were informed that it would be placed on the June 25th agenda. This morning, we received a text message at 8:30 saying it was going back on. It isn't even on the agenda right now online. It's not on the printed agenda that's in the hands of people in the audience right now. That's a problem. That's a problem. And when we say that we don't hear from the community, well, there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, the majority of these conversations happened either behind a closed door in a workshop when they're not fully attended or people are watching. Number two, people are inundated with chaos that is constantly happening and coming out of this board. Every single week, there's a new controversy to have a conversation about, and it's overwhelming. But I will say this, when I was running for office in 2019, you guys were having this conversation before. This is not a new conversation. This conversation happened in our community right after a mass shooting in South Florida, at a time when you would think that people's emotions would lean towards making this decision, but they didn't. The majority of this community did not support this move. So I don't understand why we could lie to ourselves that now in 2024, the community would want to support this move. And if you really believe that to be accurate, then you would have felt very confident in surveying parents and staff members about how they feel about this decision. I've said this to you guys in our sessions. I believe this is the primary role of security specialists and officers. And the response is, we can't find enough staff to fill it. Well, pay them more. Advocate to your state legislators and your governor to fulfill that line item so that we can have the right people in place, because there's no price tag on the lives of our children. And if that's really your goal, if you believe that your children are at risk and we need to keep them safe and we need to add more officers to the campuses, then advocate for that. The reality is that's not what we're doing here. This is a conversation back with the sheriff back then in 2019 and 2018, where he made it very clear what he was looking for. He advocated it through my opponent, who ended up losing because of this very issue that I had at conversations at doors every single time. This is another way to increase a budget that is not transparent. It is ridiculous. There is no data to prove that this keeps our children more safe. And I hope the teachers union is listening. I don't care what words are in your contract. This is a slippery slope. That accidental email that went out to all of our staff instead of the ones that would only be considered, I don't believe was an accident. And I'm only here till November. So make sure you're paying attention. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Any other discussion? Mr. Susan or Mr. Trent?
I'm good.
Mr. Trent? Are you?
All right, Ms. Campbell, it really sounded like you had done your research and looked at from top to bottom. Likewise, we all have, and thank you for doing that and putting it out there. No, we do not just sit up here and raise our hand or vote yay or nay just on a whim. So we have done our research and the data and looked at the data. And I know it's not this subject, but that's the reason why we're asking for the survey, so we can, on the other topic, so we can have data, so we can make an educated decision if we need to. So we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So I'll echo what Ms. Campbell said. Of course, we don't want to put something like this in place, but we have to put everything on the table. Yes, this is just another layer of security. I don't care how many SROs are at a facility. If we have the ability to put another layer of security in our schools, it's our responsibility to look at that, and that's what we're doing. And the data does not show that it doesn't improve security. So we have taken ample time to look over the information, and I look forward to seeing this program work. It's an extensive program that I don't know if I would be going through it. So those who do, thank you in advance, because this is a huge step for someone. This isn't something that you're going to take lightly, and I have the utmost confidence in our Sheriff's Department to make sure the people that step forward are qualified and get through this program. So.
Thank you, Mr. Trent. My stance on this has been the same since we went to Marjory Stoneman Douglas. Honestly, it was the same from before then when I read the book Why Meadow Died. It's been the same since the day that the Marjory Stoneman Douglas incident took place, that security is the utmost importance when it comes to the safety of our students. Now, how we achieve that, people will differ and they will think it's one way versus the other way, and that's okay. We've been elected by the people to represent this community. And so on that matter, you get on an airplane and there's an air marshal. You don't know they're there. But you know in the back of your mind that they're there and they keep you safe and you know why they're there and what their purpose is. The purpose of this is to ensure that our students are safe, that they have every chance possible if a bad actor were to come on campus and try to harm our students, that we put in place everything we possibly could to ensure that our students and our staff would be safe. So again, this presentation was given to us. We had a board meeting, workshop, in January, where Mr. Wilson gave us the stats from around the state on districts that have guardians, that have SROs, that have the hybrid version of the security specialist. So every day that we wait and we delay and we take longer, I feel like is a day that our students and our staff is not as safe as they possibly could be. So for that reason, I obviously am a huge fan of this program. I want this program to succeed. I want our staff and our students to be safe, and that is something I will advocate for always. Ms. Campbell, you said you had something else you would like to add.
Yeah, I wanted to circle back around. Thank you. I did want to add, as far as the discussion, something Ms. Jenkins mentioned. I have a different. I mean, we all have our own perspective on the things that happened. I don't think that the email that went out to all staff was accidental. I haven't heard anything in my conversation with people that was accidental. If anything, it made it even more transparent because every BPS employee was available. Now, we got responses from people who were in the BFT group. What's the word I'm looking for?
Contract bargaining unit.
Bargaining unit, right, who clearly would not be eligible, but there are actually some people who were at the time in the unit but are moving into administrative or other positions that were non-bargaining that would pull them out and they would have the opportunity. So, and if anything, it made it more transparent because all BPS employees were included on the email. I also, I hear the concern, and I've heard other people talk about it in the past of why don't we just hire more SROs? Which is ironic considering, again, 6 years ago, people didn't want more SROs. But, understandable, if they'd rather have that than this, I get it. Everyone has their own viewpoint on that. But the truth is, we were told back in 2018, and we're still told, there aren't enough out there. All our police departments, our sheriff department, even with the legislature and the governor putting out these $5,000 bonuses for people to move from other states down to Florida to attract them into law enforcement, they are doing the best they can to fill their own staff needs. And to that point, the sheriff from 2018 till today has continued to give us more officers. That's taking them off the roads and out of his offices and putting them in our schools, and prioritized this because we now have, I don't know what the exact number is of more SROs that we have from the sheriff's office as we had compared to 2018, but he's continued to provide those as we've opened up new schools, as he's had more staff, not just for in the schools, but up here to help monitor things. But they're just not available. That's why we have our two largest cities who cannot provide more than, I think, 3 each for 3 or 4 each, because they just don't have the staff and the budget. Even if they had the budget, they don't have the staff. So even if we could throw another $13 million at it, that the people aren't there. And so that's just not a feasible solution. And I do know other districts, small ones. I've got a friend in Charlotte who talks about even before Marshall Douglas, they already had one SRO in every school. Well, that's great when you only have a handful of schools. And some of the other small districts also do that. I've got a friend in another county up in the Panhandle, and they have two in every secondary school and one every elementary school. They're much, much smaller, and it's easier for them to accomplish that. So it's just not feasible. I call into question the concern about lack of transparency, because we haven't had a whole ton of conversations, but we've had two highly publicized ones. One was not in a workshop, it was in a board meeting, which is the first one where you brought it up in October. And there was news coverage of that all for the next week. We had our discussion about it in January at that was a workshop. But again, it was publicized all in the news for the next little bit for that. And as we've moved forward, we're not doing these things under a rock. With that being said, board, I did go out based on what Ms. Jenkins was saying and pull up the public-facing agenda, and she is right, and Mr. Gibbs has seen it too, and you've seen it now. This item is not here on the public-facing agenda. So I think we want things to move forward in the background, because I think we have our consensus, even though we haven't taken the final vote. But whatever, and Mr. Gibbs can guide us in here, I want to make a motion to postpone this temporarily to our June the 25th meeting, so that it can be on the public-facing agenda, because I think we would actually might have something called in a question that we vote on something that was not on the agenda, because it's only on our agenda. So that's just, so we would temporarily postpone, but we would, if there's some kind of vote we can give to like a move forward, yes, keep going vote, so that the sheriff can have what he needs to get the training in place. But I think we need to postpone this vote on this MOU until it is properly notice to the public where they can see it. So that is a motion.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, that opens up to the discussion for the motion to postpone it. Mr. Gibbs, was this attachment and this MOU on the public-facing forward website from the time that it was published up until 3 p.m. yesterday?
As far as I know, it was published, it was on the agenda prior to yesterday when it was pulled off.
Okay, and then it was
didn't print it out.
modified?
Yeah, it was modified yesterday afternoon, and just for some added background, it was placed back on this morning out of concern for allowing the sheriff to have time to vet those who are interested in this position. So that is a good cause situation to get them in place before the start of school. They have to start training at the beginning of July. So
right.
It's a lot of hours, it's a lot of training to get done in a very short amount of time.
And board, I'm gonna take a moment for a minute and I'm gonna speak about my frustration about this, because yesterday I was at a conference the entire day until 6:30 p.m. This got pulled off yesterday with no knowledge or conversation whatsoever, and scrambling at 6:30 going, wait a minute, why is this pulled off, when I'm driving home to say what's going on here. And then this morning, coming in first thing this morning to say, hey, why did this get pulled off? Okay, well, we needed to add 7 words. And they're significant words, I will give you that, but they're 7 words. It's a difference of 7 words. And so we needed to add these words so that everyone felt comfortable and everyone has that attachment with it being redlined. For that reason, I'm not in favor or supporting postponing this, because it has been posted, and the 7 words, just so you know what the 7 words are. I think Ms. Jenkins should have this emailed as well. It's redlined.
I do not have the email.
It wasn't an email, it's attached to the agenda now.
Okay, well, it's attached to the, well, this is not the redline version. Sorry, let me get the redline version.
Here.
It's under, I think, section 10. Yeah. All right, so the 7 words were beginning in 2024 to 2025. And then the word traditional was added in that same sentence for a traditional guardian versus just a guardian, right? Guardian was already there in the MOU. Just says traditional guardian, not guardian. And then STOMP certified employees, including the specialist, was added. under section 11. It is, I mean, I understand the reason why some people wanted that added on there. For that reason, though, it doesn't change the overall MOU significantly to the point of saying, oh, the previous one would be invalid, or we weren't being transparent, or Guardian was still all over the place on this. So that's where I land on this. I'll open it up for further discussion.
I'm going to go back to just the contract itself didn't just have those words added in. There was actually something taken out because the old language was still, and I'm just, because we're going to be completely transparent, the old language is still there. Somebody had uploaded the wrong attachment, and people still knew it was on there, and it was still told that we were voting on it, you know, up until yesterday afternoon. But it actually said up in further in number 10, in the early first part of number 10, that we weren't doing it for any other staff. And then at the bottom it said we were. So that, and then the item, I know this is not what we're voting on the MOU itself and not the description of the item, but the item actually said we weren't expanding it. So there were lots of wires crossed. Mr. Gibbs took a look at it, and Dr. Rendell took a look at it, and they sent it back over across the street to make sure we got the edits and everybody agreed. And so I don't disagree that there, you know, people knew we were talking about this and we were going to vote on it. But there was more wrong than just adding these couple of words. And so, it's clear where my vote is going to be. I just ask for transparency's sake. And we, you know, we can vote on the tabling motion. If it doesn't work, then we'll take a vote, and I'm fine. But I think there's a little more than just that going on.
All right.
I would like to respond to that.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Jenkins.
So I don't know how we can sit here and argue that this would be the right thing to do to move forward when there were such egregious mistakes made in the agenda item that was posted. If that doesn't scream that we're rushing through this process, I don't know what does. Those were egregious mistakes that were made. And why it wasn't triple checked and reviewed before it was posted for such a controversial issue completely blows my mind. And I have to go back to just the overall topic in and of itself. We have asked staff, like we continuously waste the time of staff asking them to come forward and give us these presentations that we don't actually take into consideration. When we surveyed the districts around the state about what they do for their programs, there wasn't information presented that says like-sized counties are doing the same thing that you're about to do. That was not presented. And so I'm requesting going forward that we stop wasting our staff time and wasting other districts' time telling us this information if you're not going to actually use it to make a decision. And I hear you, Ms. Campbell, of when this conversation started, but do you honestly believe that from October of last year in a public board meeting to now June, that the average citizen has this on their mind and is aware that this is taking place today? You can't actually believe that. And the fact that not only was this removed, inquiries that were made were given a solid response in writing that this will be placed back on the June 25th agenda. That's a problem. That is a severe problem of communication and transparency. And that's not the first time that this has happened. And Ms. Wright, if you aren't getting a notification when this was pulled, yeah, that is a problem. I agree with you. You're the board chair. That's your superintendent's responsibility to call you and to tell you that this is taking place. It's unacceptable to get a text message at 8:30 in the morning. And at a bare minimum, it's not even on the public-facing agenda right now. There are public members who didn't come today thinking it was changed. There are media sources that inquired directly with BPS that didn't come today because they were told it was on the 25th. It's completely wrong. It's a full lack of transparency, and there's no reason why it can't wait going forward.
All right, and are you done, Ms. Jenkins? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
Yes, thank you.
All right, any other further discussion on this one? So we have, is there any further discussion from the board? No. All right, so the motion on the table right now is to table it until the 25th and bring it back with Ms. Campbell making the motion, Ms. Jenkins seconding the motion. Any further discussion around that? Hearing none. Paul, roll call, please.
Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Ms. Campbell?
Aye.
Ms. Wright?
Nay.
Mr. Trent?
Nay.
Mr. Susan?
Nay.
All right, so we are back to the original motion, which, correct, Mr. Gibbs? We're back to the original motion, which is to approve it on today's board agenda. All right, is there any further discussion that needs to be had at this point? I think we've pretty much all said what we need to say. Hearing none? No. All right, Paul, roll call, please.
Ms. Jenkins?
Nay.
Ms. Campbell?
Aye.
Ms. Wright?
Aye.
Mr. Trent?
Aye.
Mr. Susan?
Aye.
All right, I think that moves us on to, I got lost in my line up here of items that we were at, so give me 1 second. All right. We're moving on to the information portion of the agenda, which includes 2 items my microphone turned off, sorry. Which includes 2 items for the board to review and could be brought back at a later meeting. No action is required from these items today. Does any board member wish to discuss those items?
I was confused on number 34, the subrogation demand, Coquina Fire, there's no attachment, so was that
That is-
something staff was going to come talk to us?
That is just information for the board that we are pursuing legal action on recovering, because discussions to cover the fire with the company that supposedly caused the fire in their work at the school, they haven't been fruitful. So they denied, covering those damages that we had to cover to the tune of over $100,000.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other discussion on these 2 items? Hearing none. All right, we're now at the board member reports. Does any board member have anything further to report or discuss?
Yep.
All right, Ms. Campbell.
So last week was our Florida School Boards Association conference, and it was short but sweet. We have a new president, Mr. Tim, oh my goodness. My brain just went blank. Help me, Matt.
Who's the new president, Tim?
Tim Bryant.
Tim Bryant, sorry. Sorry, Tim. Of Okaloosa, our new president. He's going to do a great job. But we had some great sessions, including conversations about recent legal cases, most of which Mr. Gibbs has already kept us up with, regarding like the Title IX and even the case. You never like walking into a workshop about legal cases and the first screen has got Brevard on it. But there were some updates regarding one of our cases that had to do with public comment and First Amendment, things like that. But it's always interesting. I'm like, oh, I already know that. Oh, I already know that on that one. But it was good cases. But I also wanted to share with you, I went to a great session that was presented by Orange County Public Schools and the CEO of their, I can't remember what their names, but I think it's called Aura, their Realtors Association. And they talked about the importance of building partnerships with the district and community partners, and especially this guy was on fire. But it made me proud because I know we have a good relationship with our Space Coast Association of Realtors and how they've supported things like the millage and the sales surtax, and we really couldn't have gotten it done without them. So it was exciting to hear that. But also they talked about other organizations, and so and some just ideas, and so I'll be sharing that with our staff in the future. Our PI team does such a great job, and it can always be better, and partnering with churches and partnering with, just volunteer, but they really bring that volunteer organization under that whole umbrella in a great way, and so I think it's a good one to look at. And then just finally, the last session on Friday afternoon or Friday morning was a session with 3 legislators, Representative Rizzo from the Miami-Dade area, Representative Valdez from Hillsborough, I think, and then Senator Hudson, who's actually retiring. He's finishing up, but really had a great conversation about deregulation. And so I just wanted to share with you some of the things they talked about. They said definitely this was the first bite at the apple, that they can plan to continue the work to go back at it and try to figure out what are those regulations that really cause us grief and are unnecessary and get in the way of just trying to help students perform well. And so it was really exciting to hear that. They had let us know about the governor's announcement coming this Monday, which of course yesterday was released, that the governor plans to introduce another $200 million towards the teacher salary increase allocation. And from the conversation that they had around that, they seemed to encourage, seemed to suggest the idea that this will be even more flexible dollars so that we could recognize veteran teachers even more with the money that's coming forward. So hopefully that will continue. So I just, it was a great session. They presented Representative Rizzo with our Legislator of the Year award for his work and leadership in deregulation, but it was suggested that now is, I know some of those seats are open and we don't know who's going to be in them, but for the ones you know will be continuing on, or you think likely to, which would be just some senators, or people you likely would continue to be on, they suggested that now is the time really to get in there and communicate with them. Here are some of the further deregulation work that we'd like to see you do. And I know this board has had conversations, and we've heard from lots of people around teacher recertification, and our staff has done all that they can do for some. We've got some teachers and social workers. Social workers have to pass all this teacher certification test, and that's not what they went to school to do. That's not what we're asking them to do, and yet they're required to jump over that hurdle. And we have social workers and teachers who have had highly effective evaluations, are just killing it in the classroom, getting it done, and yet because maybe they're not a good test taker, or they, or like I said, social work it's not in their wheelhouse, the kind of things they're having to do. And so I would like, as we start thinking about our legislative agenda, I really like for us to push for that, some kind of change in the recertification of teachers, but in particular social workers, because I don't want to lose another great employee because they're having to jump over this hurdle that really doesn't tell the whole story. Right. We have alternative for students all the time. If a kid can't pass the 10th grade FAST, they can get a concordance score on the SAT or the ACT. If they still don't do that, we've had all these other options for kids who just one way path to graduation was not working for them. So we have all these paths. We need to have more paths for our teachers and our social workers and our certificated personnel. And so I think that would be a great thing to addition. I know it's only June, but it's never too early to start thinking about what our ask is going to be. And I think what I'm sharing with you about what we heard on Friday is I think they're ready to hear it.
Okay, good. I like that. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. All right, Mr. Susan.
Just wanted to clarify what Ms. Sandra Sullivan was speaking about with that pollution. I went to that organization. It's a Patrick Air Force Base community type organization that has people from the county and other individuals on it, and what they're doing is testing on what's known as PFAS throughout the area. They were indicated that back in the 1980s there were a series of pollution spills that came off of Patrick, so they're just testing to see where that's at. It's tested positive in some of the places in Satellite. So what the committee did was they made a recommendation to Patrick, not to us, to have them then come and try to test one of our spill water areas. Patrick had indicated that they probably would or would not be able to get that through. They're going to go ahead and ask them, but I didn't want you guys to think that the committee was asking us directly. They have internal policies and procedures they have to go through to do that, and then they'll make that formal request to us if that ever was to come to fruition. Okay. But I did just want to give you an update on that. It was a pretty good little meeting, good people inside there, and a good thing that Patrick's doing it, just to make sure that if they did have something that's inside the ground, that they're doing it and making sure that it's taken care of. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the insurance that was mentioned by a public speaker and others, just so everybody knows, the 13% increase that they were looking at, what they did was I made a recommendation a couple of meetings ago to bring back a narrow network to reduce cost. The SIAC brought back a narrow network yesterday. They're working through some of the disruptions and how that looks. The other thing is that they're going to be working on preventative screenings, which we all know in 2008 as a teacher, I tried to make what's known as healthy groups as part of the insurance, so that if you are somebody that does preventative screening and is trying to move towards making sure that you don't have those things, then what ends up happening is you don't catch it when it's a stage 4 of something. It's a stage 1 when you have preventative screenings, which reduces the cost significantly, and for the mental health and health of our teachers inside of our school district. So I'm very happy with the direction that the movement that's happening. We have a couple of point-based solutions that were approved, I think 3 or 4 months ago that are coming forward. So we're in a good spot, but I think that right now is time for us to really dig in on understanding what is about to happen so that we can avoid that 13% increase. That's it. I just wanted to kind of go through that real quick.
Thank you, Mr. Susan. Mr. Trent, anything? You're good? All right. Ms. Jenkins, you're still with us, right? Do you have any reports?
No.
No, okay. All right. Dr. Rendell, do you have anything further?
I do not.
You do not. All right. And seeing that there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.